Hello folks, this is a lesson called Relationships Between Angles. So if you haven't done the types of angles lesson yet, you should either review that in your head and make sure you know like acute and obtuse and all of those words. And if you're not sure, go do that lesson first because this definitely needs an understanding of that before you can start. P.S. Notice these cute little angles down here? Acute angles. They're in a relationship. That is not what this lesson is about. So for this lesson, we need to have two different angles. So we're going to use this one. This is an acute angle. And we're going to use this one, which right now is also an acute angle. When two angles go together, we often draw them with the rays on top of each other. So if we put these angles together, we would draw it kind of like this. I think for this work, we're going to mostly just do it on paper. But just so you know, this is what we're looking at, is the idea of some angles kind of layering up on top of each other. What we just created right here is a complementary set of angles. The black angle right here, added to the red angle right here, makes a right angle. Let's do it on paper though, so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so we have this angle, there's the vertex, there's the rays, and when we mix it together with this angle, they're going to share the vertex, two of their rays are going to overlap. When we mix these together, they equal a right angle. They equal that perfect 90-degree angle. And when you have two angles that added together do that, you call them complementary angles. So let's make a little note here that says that this is a right angle. Notice how I drew my little angle marker with a proper corner as opposed to the curve like you normally do. Anytime you draw a right angle on paper, if you do the proper little right angle corner for your marker, that's how you tell people that is supposed to be a right angle, even if my drawing was a little sloppy and it was technically 89 degrees instead of 90. So there you go. That's one of them. That's a complementary angle. Now, we have another option. We're going to do it first with sticks and then on paper where it's easier to see. So if we have one angle, that's an acute angle, and another angle, this one's an obtuse angle, and when you add them together, they equal a straight angle, or they make the 180 degrees, we call that a supplementary angle. On paper, it looks like this. This angle, there's its vertex, plus this angle, remember sharing a vertex, two rays on top of each other. If when you add them together, it makes 180 degrees. Remember the teeny tiny little dot up in the corner after your numbers means degrees. Normally it's like a little tiny 0, but if you can't draw it small enough, it could just be a dot. If two angles add up to 180 degrees, or a straight angle, they're called supplementary. Straight angle. So they could be the angles like this, but it could also look like this. For a complementary angle, you could have one that was ridiculously tiny and add to it one that was almost big enough on its own. That's still complementary angles. Same thing with your supplementary angles. You could have two that were almost 90 degrees on their own. These would be supplementary angles also. So there's the beginning of your relationships between angles. I think we're actually going to save the second part for another lesson. So let's change this to say relationships between angles number 1. Make sure you record that in your journal. Draw yourself a little doodle somewhere so that you have practice with these words. Maybe even practice spelling them a couple times because, my goodness, complementary and supplementary are long words. I was looking into where these words come from, fun fact of the day, and both complementary and supplementary come from Latin. Complementary comes from the Latin word compliere, and supplementary comes from the Latin word suppliere. And what's funny is they basically mean the same thing. Complementary, or compliere, means to fill up in Latin. Supplementary means to supply in Latin. Kind of the same thing, huh? It's like the second angle in a complementary one fills up the angle and turns it into a right angle. And the second angle in a supplementary pair supplies whatever is needed to make a straight angle. Crazy stuff with words, my friends. Record in your journal. Have a good day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.